I really think you can call this Trump's deal. We've had some private phone calls that have been reported in which the president simply tells Mr. Netanyahu, you've got no choices either with me or against me at this point, take the victory.
I don't say this out of ego, but I was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Israel and Hamas have agreed the first stages of a 3-point peace plan. You're going to see in the next 72 hours at the beginning of the release of the Israeli hostages. That's the 20 who remain alive and the 28 who died in captivity. At the same time, the IDF is going to withdraw its forces further towards the fringes of the Gaza Strip. And then you get into even more complicated questions in the second and the third parts of the plan. Now that will eventually see Hamas disarm. It will see a new governance force created in the Gaza Strip, and obviously once the fighting stops later this afternoon, there will be even more. What's worth mentioning is that Netanyahu made quite serious efforts to stop the deal taking shape. He called President Trump shortly after Hamas had given its response, saying to the president, listen, they haven't mentioned disarmament and they haven't mentioned the post-war governance of Gaza. This is effectively a Hamas rejection of the deal. Don't be fooled by them. Now, again, according to reports by the news website Axios, the president replied, why are you always so effing negative? So Netanyahu has, many would say, he's prolonged the war to continue the survival of his government, which is propped up by some far-right ministers who really object to any proposal of any compromise, any deal with Hamas until the group is fully militarily exterminated. Now, Mr. Netanyahu has to an extent been backed into a corner by Mr. Trump, but he now faces quite serious issues in terms of how is he going to maintain power in the run-up to what we expect will be Israeli elections early next year. In reality, it's going to be very, very tricky for the Israeli Prime Minister in the coming days, and there are those who still warn that he may seek to use opportunities to obstruct or delay the implementation of the deal. Obviously, he has President Trump to contend with, and he's got a very one-way mindset on this at this point in time, so it will be interesting to see what follows. Hamas is taking a gamble. The decision to release all of the hostages gives up its primary source of leverage over the Israelis. And the gamble on the part of the terror group is that Mr. Trump will push Israel to fully end the war, not to resume it, not to come back in after the hostages have been released and continue its military campaign to eradicate the group, but to essentially say this stops here. Arab states that are acting as intermediaries have apparently passed on word to Hamas that Trump will ensure that the war stops once the hostages are released. It's obviously still somewhat of a tentative subject. We'll have to see what happens. But the gamble is we give up the hostages, but the war ends. There are wins within this deal, at least the parts we've seen so far for Hamas. It's better than the alternative, which is the continued destruction of its leadership, the continued killing of its fighters within Gaza. And it may be something of a bitter pill to swallow for Benjamin Netanyahu, whose political survival is somewhat at risk now, but most of the Israeli population, I think, will welcome the return of peace, something large majority support in current polling.